Hitman. Hitman is one of the big stinkers of this game when it comes to perk decks, and the reason is because it aged about as well as milk left out in the sun. If you don't know why Hitman sucks, or at the very least how it works, let's talk about it. Like I said, Hitman aged really poorly. Back in 1993, or whenever Hitman was added, it had the unique ability allowing you to use akimbo weapons. It wasn't the only way to use akimbo weapons, but the other choice was spending 15 million points to get a specific skill. However, spending such a massive chunk of your points when you can just equip the deck is not such a great deal. So no matter how bad Hitman was, or could have been, it still had value in saving yourself a ton of points if you wanted akimbo weapons. However, Hitman's entire purpose was relinquished after the change to skill trees in Update 100. At any time after Update 100, you could equip akimbo weapons without any skill or perk deck investment. And so, what was left of Hitman? Well, not a whole lot. Let's start with the easiest boost to understand, the akimbo ones. Even though Hitman is no longer the way to unlock akimbo, it still helps out the weapon class. 50% more ammo capacity means you just take whatever total ammo the akimbo have and just multiply it by 1.5. Simple enough. The other akimbo boost is weird. If you notice, it says you get negative 16 stability penalty. Since penalty is negative, and the negative 16 is negative, it just means plus 16 stability. Akimbo weapons come with an innate stability penalty, which makes some of them, like the revolvers for example, have negative stability despite showing 0. Hitman lessens this penalty, but honestly, I have no idea why the devs didn't just write plus 16 akimbo stability. This is needless complication for a mechanic I don't think many people even know exists. On to the other boosts of Hitman, which are related to armor regen. Each card of Hitman, and I mean each card, increases armor regen speed by a marginal amount. This is hilariously disappointing if someone were to be using the deck while trying to unlock it, but this is just another remnant of history, as after card 3, you could use that unique akimbo ability. Total, the armor regen speed ends up at 45%. I've gone over armor regen mechanics in both my Yakuza and Express video, and I don't feel like repeating it here again, especially since Yakuza was the last perk deck I did for a video anyway. Go check those if you're interested in how armor regen works. That aside, 45% is nothing to scoff at, but armor suppression still exists to ruin your day. Doesn't matter how fast you can regenerate your armor if you never really get the chance. However, this is Hitman's final, and arguably only good ability. Upon armor break, you'll regenerate your armor in 1.5 seconds. I've seen some people misinterpret this as just always regenerating in 1.5 seconds regardless of armor break, and I'm not exactly sure why, but that's not how it works. This may already sound good, but it's even better than you may think, and I'll explain why. This timer doesn't refresh if your armor breaks again. That means your armor can break, you can bullseye, and when your armor breaks again, you're still on the first armor regeneration timer. You can armor gate between and with the armor regeneration timer. If you ever play Hitman and it seems like your armor came back way faster than it should have, it's because you already had a timer running, and this may actually deceive you into thinking Hitman is good. Yeah, unlike Yakuza, which offers near nothing, everything that Hitman offers, well, aside from the guaranteed regen on break, kinda sucks. The akimbo boosts aren't needed since we have the akimbo skill, which does the exact same thing that the Hitman akimbo boosts do, and even ignoring that, akimbo don't really need those boosts in the first place. The armor regen is nice, but suppression exists. Overall, Hitman is very deserving of the title Shitman, and with that said, let's get into the builds. Since Hitman gives buffs to akimbo, let's start with pistols. There's a whole lot of these in the game, and nobody ever uses them. Will Hitman change that? Absolutely not, but it makes them slightly more tolerable to play, at least if you forget that you need to use Hitman for it. So the broomsticks. They have a whole lot of damage, and in exchange, have shit for ammo. Of course, you could go for any other high damage pistol here, and I would have gone with my ever-loved Parabellums if I wasn't using the ICTV. ICTV and Frenzy is sort of the default armor choice for Hitman, or any other deck that has no legs to stand on. On top of giving you 2-shot armor, Light Shot Zerk will allow the Akimbo Broomsticks to one-shot heavies with one pull of the trigger. I mean, you could always do that if you shot to the head, but I don't play like that. I play the way God intended, aiming at nothing but the body. Anyway, the Hitman boost to ammo is noticeable, especially if you've played with broomsticks before, but even that doesn't really make them completely reliable, so you'll be swapping to the singular broomstick to help with upkeep and dealing with snipers. A wise philosopher once asked, "Can Akimbo SMGs carry a build?" And somewhat unsurprisingly, it turns out the answer is yes. ICTV-less Hitman is quite fragile, but as long as you blast everything in your sight sky high with the Akimbo and take a first aid kit every now and then, you'll be fine. You don't really need to be too careful with ammo. The Akimbo Compact 5 SMGs with Hitman, Akimbo, and Fully Loaded have the highest ammo of any gun in the game, excluding miniguns and flamethrowers. If that ammo is still not enough for you, you could remove the first aid kits and just go for Bulletstorm, and Bulletstorm Akimbo SMGs, well, I'm sure you know how that goes. If you do somehow manage to run out of ammo with Akimbo SMGs that pick up 4 to 14 bullets per box, while only needing to spend a maximum of 6 per heavy SWAT, you can swap to the singular Compact 5. To be perfectly honest, the singular Compact 5 is underwhelming, and should only be used when extreme concealment is required. However, since the straight magazine changes the gun from 45 to 60 damage, and the ammo pickup doesn't change, the Compact 5 is comically ammo efficient, so I might as well slot it into this ammo-based build. Akimbo shotguns are certainly a weapon category in this game. Should they exist? Probably not, but I've lost all feeling in my wrists about 5 minutes ago with the Akimbo broomsticks, so more bodily harm can't hurt. Originally, I wanted to use the new Akimbo VD12s here, since they are just a straight upgrade to Goliaths. However, the singular VD12 is also a primary, which, yeah, sure, why not? And also I didn't want to kill my vibe with the triple weapon setups, so Goliaths it is. Everyone knows the Akimbo Goliaths, so I don't need to explain much about them, but you may have noticed that this build lacks Overkill, a practically necessary skill for shotguns. Well, with some Zerk, the Akimbo Goliaths can actually one-shot heavies without needing either Underdog or Overkill active. This makes them noticeably more consistent at killing heavies in particular than standard Akimbo Goliath setups, at least Zerkless. However, these Akimbo Goliaths will be quite ineffective against dozers, so using the 4 points I saved on Overkill, I went and got high value target aced and unseen strike aced for a mere 21 points. Yeah, looking back now, not my greatest idea. While the Akimbo Goliaths are monsters in close range, They aren't really useful for long-range targets, so you can just build the singular Goliath for accuracy. Max accuracy single Goliath makes for a goofy gun, and is actually quite fun to play outside of garbage builds like this. Maybe I'll show off a build with it another day, but today is not really a day for good builds. I'm showcasing Hitman after all. Well, I've run out of akimbo options, but I haven't reached the build quota I promised in the title. Who needs akimbo anyway? I'm sure Hitman is good enough to stand on its own feet without them, and funnily enough, it does. At least in this setup. The AMR has always been a beast, but with body expertise aced, and built for at least 172 damage, you can destroy basically everything. However, that comes with the downside of less than stellar stats. Or, it did mean that. See, the last time I played an AMR built for this breakpoint, the McShay DLCs weren't a thing, and even though the stats were alright, you don't have a silencer or perfect accuracy. The lack of silencer means that when you shoot, enemies will be alerted and will choose to blow your face off instead of your teammates who do have silencers, and not having perfect accuracy will mess with your sniper clearing. But with the McShay mods, you can have perfect accuracy, a silencer while keeping the breakpoint that's needed, as well as near perfect stability, and that's very fair to those without the DLC. Combine that with the recent fix to DMR kit pickup, and this build sure is something. 5-7 is for shields, dodge on Hitman is actually quite good since you almost always guarantee your fast regen, yada yada. Let's talk about the ammo change real quick. In case you didn't know, DMR kits were previously bugged such that the amount they picked up was locked to default, meaning you can't increase them with fully loaded, and more importantly, walk-in closet. Trust me, this makes a difference. When I was recording footage for my big guide thing, I played on a fresh account and was starting to run into ammo problems if I was too willy-nilly with my shots, even on relatively good on-ammo weapons. Before the fix was implemented, DMR kits had a pickup of roughly 1 to 3. Since this build spends 2 shots per enemy, and 1 if it's a crit, that's not a too unfair pickup. However, after the fix, they are now 2 to 5. Adding to this, the way pickup worked in general was changed. Pickup used to roll a random number between maximum and minimum, round it, and then give you that ammo. This means that weapons with minimum pickups below 0.5 could technically get 0 bullets back throughout the entire game. Realistically, no, but in theory, yes. The change to ammo pickup swapped the rounding system for a truncating system. If you get a pickup that rolls 1.3, instead of just losing that 0.3, it gets stored and added to your next roll. Now it's no longer theoretically possible to pick up nothing unless your weapon literally just can't pick up ammo. How much of a difference does this actually make? Well, honestly, not much, with the exception of weapons that have potentially 0 pickup. I'll show you an example. Step 1. Choose 10 random numbers between our minimum and maximum pickup. Step 2. Math. I already explained how each pickup is calculated, so I sum these 10 pickups to see what the total ends up as. As you can see, there's no real difference for the DMR kit AMR. However, for something with potentially 0 pickup, like the Thanatos, the result is something else. Running the exact same method for the Thanatos will show what this change to pickup actually does. With the old method, this Thanatos would have picked up 2 bullets. With the new method, it picks up 4. In essence, the worse your rolls, the bigger difference this system makes. Honestly, no complaints. Although this change wasn't needed, it's one of the few things the devs have done recently that doesn't actively make the game worse. That was significantly more effort than was worth it for a demonstration, but I like to do my own stunts on this channel, even though I'm sure any of my programming-capable friends could have pulled off a script for a sample size greater than 10 pickups, and for any weapon in less than 5 minutes. Anyway, what is this video about? Hitman builds? Right, Hitman builds. Let's move on. Similarly to Yakuza, I suggested changes to Hitman in a video talking about balance. Our Lord and Savior, Dr. Newbie, made a mod implementing the changes, and this build uses that custom Hitman. Since the changes I suggested were more ammo related in general than buffs to akimbo weapons, let's try out a weapon that needs ammo help. The Breakout was a piece of shit shotgun even before it was hit with a ton of nerfs because the developers made blanket shotgun changes instead of just fixing the shotguns that needed fixing. So did the ammo changes make the Breaker good? Good is a strong word. Playable is also kind of strong. The Breaker is a leading competitor for the worst weapon in the game, full stop. And although the ammo on it was alright with Hitman, it still had a multitude of problems holding it back. I found myself using the GSPS way more often, even when I had a fully loaded Breaker rearing to go. The GSPS can of course be swapped out for a Judge, or any of the lower damage shotguns if you wanted to. The Breaker can be swapped for literally almost anything, because dear god, it's just so bad. However, unlike the Yakuza build using the modded deck, I highly recommend not playing this build with vanilla Hitman. Can you? Yes, but you really shouldn't. The double converts do help out in the killing field a significant amount, and the unsuppressible armor is very nice too, but I'll talk about the perk deck changes in a moment. So your 5 Hitman builds. Unlike Yakuza, that comes with the novelty of being the worst deck in the game, Shitman being second worst has no good reason to be picked basically ever. Every single one of these builds could be changed to a different deck and just perform better. Let's talk about my Hitman change implemented by Dr. Newbie. I was quite a fan of the Yakuza changes I made, but what about Hitman? I'm so-so on it. Let's go back to my 3 questions and ask them again. Question 1. Is the deck better than vanilla? Absolutely. The akimbo changes aren't helpful, the armor regen speed is underwhelming, and the guaranteed regen is the only good part of the deck. That only good part was expanded on, and now the deck just has a guaranteed regen of 2.5 seconds, always. No complaints on that one. The armor increase is also a good change that should just exist in vanilla for every deck, to make ICTV more new player friendly. The ammo change? Well, doesn't really do anything. Question 2. Is the deck more fun to play than vanilla? Maybe? Akimbo weapons are really strong, but they're fun strong in my eyes, or at least some of them are. You can still play those fun akimbo with the new version, but every other weapon doesn't really change. You die less, since the deck is better, so it's more fun in that sense, I guess. But the deck's original idea of making bad pickup weapons more fun, it doesn't make too massive a difference. Question 3. Does the deck have more variety than vanilla? Nope. Like I said, the original idea was to make underused weapons with bad pickup more appealing, and the change just doesn't really work because of an oversight I made. Let's take the Breaker. By default, it has a pathetic pickup of 0.28 to 0.99, the worst of any primary shotgun without even a contest. With 25% more pickup, it goes to 0.34 to 1.18. Here are the pickup calculations for 10 pickups with the new and old decks. One whole entire additional bullet. Now let's take something with already good pickup, like the KSP. Run the 10 pickup test on that, and you'll notice something. Hopefully my oversight has become clear to you, but if it hasn't, then the change benefits weapons that already have good pickup significantly more than those I was aiming to help. Yes, both the Breaker and KSP got 25% more ammo, but with one additional bullet, the Breaker can kill one person given you don't miss, and the KSP can spend those 37 bullets killing an entire spawn group without worrying too much about aiming. So, with this in mind, why not propose another change? Instead of the percentage increase, just add 1 to both the minimum and maximum pickups of the gun. This means that with the same numbers as before, the Breaker will now get 16 bullets back from 10 boxes, and the KSP will get back 156. Perfect, right? Unfortunately, with this change, a problem pops up that didn't exist before, and that's weapons without pickup. Saws, bows, and rocket launchers will now get their pickups increased from 0 to 1, and although the saws and bows aren't really impacted, the implications of Commando Hitman are absurd. Now, if the pickups still work the way it used to, then you could increase the pickup by 0.49, making all weapons without pickup still round down to 0, while still helping out those lower pickup weapons. But oh well, that ship has sailed. However, aside from that, there's another issue, and that's, well, low pickup weapons that don't suck. We've been talking about the Breaker for a while, but let's switch to the Compact 40 that has, on paper, a terrible pickup of 0.07 to 0.88. With the change, it'll have 1.07 minimum to 1.88 maximum. Unlike the breaker, it's hard to not kill an enemy with a single shot because we're talking about a grenade launcher here. This change will now make low pickup weapons that aren't dog shit like the breaker much, much better than they are now. So what can I conclude? The problem here isn't necessarily the deck, it's the weapon. This piece of shit needs fixing on its own, not with other weapons. The breaker needs individual fixing because the developers were lazy with the blanket changes, and didn't consider parts individually like I am now. Although my Hitman changes turned out to be less than what I wanted, they're still better than what vanilla Hitman is. I don't know of a way to make the ammo thing work out in a more exciting way, and the other changes I'm more or less satisfied with. Maybe someone else can figure out a way to tweak the ammo part that doesn't make good weapons even better, but I can't. Anyway, get the mod if you feel like it, or don't. Or just don't play Hitman, which would be my personal suggestion. Let's stop talking about this awful deck, and move on to whatever gets chosen in the polls next time.